p.m. November 9th, 2023. Call this meeting to order. Start with a roll call.
Darrell Jones.
Rex Baldwin Senior.
Jenna Darling here.
Stephen Morris here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's what I was thinking.
All right, do we have any adjustments to the agenda? Mr. Spalding.
Add 91A3, Roman 2, D as in dog.
Is that for non-public?
Yes.
91A.
Yeah.
3-2.
Yeah, D. Any other?
As always. I have three things to add. If I can add under H, if I can add budget meeting information or budget information. Under I, if I can add craft fair, or craft fair, I should say. In J, if I can add bus barn MOA.
MOU?
They call it an MOA.
Oh, there.
Yep.
Agreement.
Yep. The what?
Under B already.
Yes, but that was informational,
Oh, okay. Oh,
and this would
action.
need a vote.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
Motion, second.
All right. And then we will... Roll call vote. Roll call vote, starting...
Darrell Jones. Aye.
Tim Beard, aye.
Rex Baldwin, aye.
Jenna Darling, aye.
Stephen Morris, aye.
The School Board Association said you don't have to do that for them, that's why it's not there.
Okay.
But you can if you want to, it's up to you. I gave him a little cheat sheet on when to do a roll call. And so he was like...
Well, it wasn't on the cheat sheet, but I know that we normally do
We
it,
normally do,
so...
but if we don't need to, that's fine.
Even though the cheat sheet's supposed to make me look smarter, I still look like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes, you do. Just
Well,
fine.
I can add that on there if you want.
Your lifeline's leaving after
I know. Well, that's why I was confused, because I'm like, wait, I know. All right. Next, we'll move to public comment. First, I have Lydia Urista.
Good evening, my name is Olivia Urista, the freshman class president. I'm here to speak about student behavior in classrooms. There are a few students in my classroom that act out every day. We're going to move that closer so that way, because I want to make sure everybody can hear. So we're just going to pull this whole thing way up here so we can be front and center. Keep going.
This isn't making you more nervous at all.
Good evening, my name is Olivia Urista, freshman class president. I'm here to speak about student behavior in classrooms. There are a few students in my class that act out every day. Every day it's the same behavior. For example, talking back to the teacher, being disrespectful, sleeping in class, or on their cell phones. The teacher tells them to go to the office and the student says no. They're told to put away their phone and the student says the rules are dumb. These are few students that also talk bad about the teachers. They swear in their classrooms, talk bad about teachers where they can hear them and just don't say anything. With this happening, it affects my education because it ends up being an argument that lasts 5 minutes. I'll be very surprised if my 2 teachers come back next year because of this behavior. One of these teachers say the behavior of Newport students are the worst they've dealt with in any of the schools they've taught. I'm starting to question if the adults are running the school or the students are. The school board has asked many times what's going wrong in Newport with how well our school ranks in the state. It's a very simple answer. Behavior is out of control and there are no consequences. Thank you for your time, and I hope someone has the courage to take back our school.
What grade are you in?
Wow.
Thank you. Keep in mind, this was our 8th graders last year that we were having concerns with. So it's still continuing.
Thank you for coming and speaking. And I know it's not easy, especially when we interrupted you and moved you up close, so we could really pay attention to every word you said, Olivia. And I think I can safely say that we're working it. It's a priority for the board, and I know you acknowledged it, and our goal is to get there. Ms. Ferrigno.
Can I just ask
Yes,
her a
ma'am.
question? I don't want to put you on the spot, so please don't feel you need to answer this question. Do you think it would be beneficial to take cell phones away from students in 9th grade as we have done in the middle school? Thank you.
How soon can we do that?
Well, they didn't hide the flowers under the podium. Yeah, a little tiger. Because you'll always be a tiger.
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
Ugh.
So Lisa Fricker, sorry. I know this isn't your last meeting, but we're obviously now in the part of the year where we have to worry about weather. And I didn't want to miss the opportunity to thank you for all that you've done for the students, the school, and our community. You have been our champion since your boys started at Richards, actually at preschool. And we just wanted to say that we appreciate your giving up your time away from your boys and your family. You've always been a voice of calm and reason, and we have truly, truly appreciated that. We will miss you.
Thank
And
you.
we miss your cookies.
I'm a
brought
text
cookies?
message away from cookies. Oh, man. Now you've stirred the pot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So I will knock them over.
Thank you, Ms. Ferrigno. Save my comments for you later. maybe?
Okay, so that sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, next we will move on to the approval of the minutes from October 26th. Do I have a motion? Motion.
Well, second?
Comment? Yes, sir, Mr. Spalding.
Number one is going down the left-hand side below adjustments to the agenda. First line down, add RSA 91A32A, teacher contract. At that point, I had made a motion to add 91A3 Roman 2, D as in dog. And page 5 shows are going into non-public comment. More question on page 3. We made a motion on adding to the handbook. Did we make it for both schools, or did we just do the one?
That was just for the
That
middle
was
school.
just middle school.
Are you talking about the very top of the page, where it starts in quotes, students should not wear?
I think he's talking down here.
It's in bold.
Okay, to amend, where Ms. Starling made the motion?
The motion passed 3-2-0. That's, I understand. Further down,
Just before board resignation?
yeah, I don't see that we voted on that. And I don't recall. Further down, board recognition.
I believe that that's a repeat of what was in the first motion.
Okay,
I think that that's what students should not wear accessories.
Yeah, I think the motion was more for the, I think wearing accessories, clothing wasn't, I don't think, it wasn't clothing, it was like collars and chains and,
Accessory.
yeah, I wouldn't consider that clothing.
let's see here.
Oh, I understand what it is, Mr. Spalding. The unbolded is what is in the, what was in the handbook. And then I showed what the new, let's see, what was that for? For the clothing, for the dress code, what it would be. And the motion that you made about the middle of the page, I added to that whole section that's in the handbook.
And then finally, the last paragraph, Darling addressed the public. It says November 17th, board meeting on November 17th.
That's next, next Friday. This is my last board meeting.
Yep.
So, but I didn't know if, we were in the middle of negotiations. If they need, there was one scheduled for the 15th, 14th. There's one scheduled next week, and if they needed me there, but if they don't need me there, then this will be my last meeting, and that's it.
So should that date stay as stated, or do you want it changed to at that time?
At the time, I said the 17th, yes.
All right, we'll take a vote with changes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
You don't have to vote on the second ones.
And then our non-public meeting minutes were approved at the end of the meeting, before we left.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
There are at least 5 references in here that my son voted, rather than myself. Senior.
You signed it.
You're right, I did. Well, he didn't, you get,
It's probably that candy you ate.
Technically, you're the first Bert, so you're technically the first Bert Spalding. He has to identify as junior.
You're the man, the myth, the legend.
Yes. I'll make sure to fix that.
well, if I get his age, I'd be happier.
All right. So we do not have a student representative report tonight. Moves us to, yes, ma'am.
The goal is to get one as soon as possible, so we should have one in December.
All right, that leads us to information actions. First item is a lead update.
All right, so I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of update on things that have been going on. So the lead testing is complete on all drinking outlets. Sinks that have not been tested have a sign that is posted right above them, and the sign will state, "This sink is to be used for hand washing only," so that way kids know not to kind of do that. We have one outlet left in the middle high school kitchen, and it's a steamer that needs to be retested. Rodney is currently working with the state to get that retested. That's what I have on that.
Thank you. Any questions on lead testing? Okay, Bus barn update?
So I didn't know if you wanted me to turn that over to you guys to talk about any of the updates that, or do you want me to speak on them?
Well, I mean, we can speak on it. We
Yeah.
met with the town last night to go over our MOA to come to a common ground and understanding so that we can work together against each other on this. And barring anything, I mean, after the conversation last night, I feel like that we're not in any pressure, stress of the situation that we found ourselves in last year before the vote at the town meeting. We did agree to give them $5,000 a year to put into an account that they will double. So they're going to match our donation. And so so we're putting in $5,000. They will put in $10,000 yearly to grow a fund so that whenever the building needs some type of repair that's a common repair for all of us, then we're helping out, since we do use that and have the benefit of the garage, and it's a team effort, is the way why I personally voted for it. Before, I wasn't going to vote for it, but whenever they committed twice the amount of funds to this, then I felt that was more teamwork involved there and not just a request for rent that's not rent, if that makes sense. So that's where I'm coming from my position as a board member. I don't know if anybody else wants to discuss. Bert and Daryl and Tim and I were there last night for that meeting, and I think overall it went fairly well.
Yeah, when they offered to do a 2/3, 1/3, I don't know what to call it, maintenance setback or something of that nature.
Oh, it's Cam?
CAM, yeah,
It's capital reserve fund, basically, is what, except,
basically is what it is.
we're not calling it that, because the town would have to vote on a warrant for a capital reserve, but that was the gist of it, so that, if tomorrow or 5 years from now, whatever, the septic failed or whatever, there's money set aside for it. It's not scrambling, like, how are we gonna pay for this? And I was okay with it, with the 5,000, because it was, hey, we're gonna do this and we'll double what you guys do. Before, I was kinda like, yeah, there's no way, because if it's just gonna be money that, the previous town manager can just spend on whatever the hell he wants, and they're like, no, it's not happening. But being they agreed and compromised to do it that way, I felt fine with it. And I think we left the meeting really well off. They're finalists having a job trail there for an office right now, and then they're finalists having a permanent office. So I think it was a good conversation, and it went well, and I'm glad it's done with, and it's turned, and it's gone the way it's supposed to go. So
At one point, a mezzanine office on the inside was mentioned by them, and I thought that was pretty cool, because that opens the door for us to really not take up floor space that the buses can hit, because it's going to be up in a mezzanine if we decide to do that. So that was a neat thing to receive. I'm not going to call it permission, but the beginning of dialogue on it.
Mr. Spalding, anything?
I'll pass.
Okay, next we'll move to the Toll basketball court.
So I want to give you an update. The Toll Gym is complete and ready to go. We are now working on finishing the painting in the boys' locker room, and then they will paint the girls' locker room, and then they're looking at painting the hallway. Because one of the big things that we've talked about is we have a lot of people from other districts that come into our building, and we want to make sure that it really represents what we're about. And so we want to spruce it up and make it look really good. And so it's going to look great. It's going to look great. So we're working on getting that done.
Awesome. So basketball is going to go on as scheduled.
Basketball as scheduled, yes.
All right, next we have the Richards Playground update.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that the playground equipment has been installed and all the bark mulch was spread. Yeah, so that was good. We did that as a team effort. It was really nice. So a lot of us from the SAU actually went there and were raking and moving bark mulch, and took us a couple days, but we got it done. So, and the kids seem to be enjoying it, so it's great to see.
Excellent. And now I see you have November 23rd school board meeting.
Yes, so due to the holiday, I'm asking the board if we can cancel that meeting.
I am okay with that because I will be out of town. No consensus?
Sure.
You're abstaining?
I will abstain from that vote, yes.
But you also mentioned possibly a meeting next week?
Yes, that's going to be in my budget thing that I wanted to ask you about, yes.
Maybe not. You still have.
Unless you
You
vote
had an
no.
opening earlier, Jenna. You didn't take it.
Jenna may
Okay,
need to
so
have to
I-
come to another meeting.
So as soon as we have consensus that that's okay for the
Perfect.
holiday. Especially if we're going to meet next week, possibly. Creating Portrait of a Learning.
Yeah, so I wanted to just fill you in what the district is looking to do next. So a portrait of a learner is an agreed-upon set of school or district aspirations of what we want every learner/student that will know and be able to do when they leave school. So we're currently working with a company to put this in place for our district. So we look from all the way from K, what should that look like, moving into first grade, second grade, third grade, and right through graduation. So we will have a layout of what each level will look like, and we'll have a big, wonderful display at the end. This does involve the community, so we'll be having meetings that involve community members, business members, our staff. So there'll be a lot of input on what they feel a student that graduates from the Newport School District should have in their pocket, right? And what they should be able to do, whether they're going to college or whether they're going into the workforce or whatever they're going to do once they leave our district. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that we have started that process and we're really excited about moving forward with it.
And is there anywhere people can find information on it yet, or is that
Not yet.
to be determined?
Not yet. We're still in the very beginning phases.
Okay, look forward to participating. I get all kinds of feedback.
So I might ask a couple of those in the audience, but the Portrait of a Learner, I think since I've been here, there's been a couple of iterations of this, of Portrait of a Tiger, that started out just being kind of athlete-centered right when I got here, and then the goal was to spread that out to into other areas. So I'm hoping that this Portrait of a Learner sticks, because it seems to just kind of be this wispy thing that kind of floats in and out and sounds really great for a while, and to have something that really sticks if we're talking about accountability and behavior. I'd really like to see that held in place.
That's the plan.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next we move to the process for appointing a school board member.
So as we know, that the Newport School Board is looking for a member to replace and serve out the term of our school board seat formerly held by Jenna Darling. So what someone would need to do, if they're interested, they would send a letter of interest and respond to 4 questions. We do have them pasted. We do have them posted on our website, so they can go onto our website and get that information. I think what we need to do is look at and talk about how long do we want to leave this open? You know, what board day do we want the people that are interested to come in and speak? So we just need to look at those things. I gave, that's what the policy is for BBBE. Any vacancy on the school board or any other district office, including the moderator, shall be filled in accordance with RSA 197:26. Board vacancies shall be filled by appointment by the board. These appointments shall remain in effect until the next district election. So just, I have four things on here. So the date to return the letter of intent and the 4 questions, when would you like to have those in by?
I would say a week before the second meeting in December.
Okay.
Right, try to get somebody within 30 days.
And there's already interest, which is good. Sometimes, there have been times where we've had to drag it out and leave it open, but I've already had interest, at least in my inbox, so.
Well, I've asked people to, because the requirement is they're supposed to be sending them to me. They're not supposed to send them to school board members, because that can disqualify them.
No, they're not sending me their
Oh,
letter of
okay.
intent, they're asking what the process
perfect.
is. So
Good, 'cause
I've not
this is exciting.
received any letters of intent.
All right,
So
perfect.
just questions. So I was just looking at the calendar. So we would have a meeting, so December's a little wonky. There will be a meeting December 14th,
Yep.
because the first falls on a Friday. So,
So then,
So we'll have the 14th and the
the 28th.
28th. But that's vacation week, isn't it?
Mhm.
So we may be only requesting one meeting that
Well, then
week. Do you
let's-
want to do the 14th?
yes, so 7 days, so we'll have time to read it just like it, so it comes with the board packet.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely.
So, any interest by December 7th?
Yes.
Yep.
The letter and the 4 questions is located on our website. We can print them, someone can come pick them up and do whatever they need to do to get them. We can get them for them. The letter of intent and the 4 questions should be sent to me. You can either email them to me, or you can mail them to me here in the office, or they can email them to Melissa Small or drop them off with Melissa Small, so that would work as well. And the date for introductions of the candidates, when do you want that to be? So
That meeting, the 14th.
Well, if you want to close it on the 14th.
No, we'll close it 7 days prior to that.
Okay,
So it
so you
goes
want to
with-
close it on the 7th and have everyone come on the 14th?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Got it.
Anything else on that?
Nope, that's it for me on that.
Okay. And I will discuss the moderator during my board communication. Next, we have budget information.
Yes, so I have a couple of requests that I'd like to do, to see if you can approve. The first thing is next week, on November 16th, starting at 4:30, we would like to have a board meeting and the only thing on the agenda will be the presentation of the budget. So we'll have all the admin come in and present, as we did last year, their budget. And so we're hoping to start at 4:30 instead of our normal time of 5, and do it on November 16th, which is not normally a school board day. I don't know if you wanted to just go one. One by-
That was the 16th?
That was November 16th, yes, that is a Thursday. I believe it's a Thursday, right?
So it's 16:30.
I am, 4:30? I don't know, 16:30, yes.
16:30.
It's 16:30.
Isn't that what you said? I wrote it down.
I said 4:30,
Oh,
but you heard 16:30, see?
16:30 works out okay, Steve.
Did you pick that up in the library?
it was an
Wow.
awesome ceremony.
You know
today.
what, it was November 16th at 4:30, so you did
I heard it in my.
yeah, good, yes, you're so used to it.
Okay,
So,
Mr. Smallman.
Normally, the board gives input to the administration before the budget process so that they know the expectations. And we're bypassing that?
the board did not do that last year.
Yep. I don't care about last year. I'm talking now.
Well, that would have been something that the board would have to say to me, because they didn't do it last year, so the expectation for me would be that we didn't do it this year. No one informed me of
I
that.
would make a motion that we have a board meeting where we set parameters for the budget with information and feedback from the superintendent and the business administrator.
For next Thursday?
I don't care about the date, but I believe it should be before they actually begin, because, let's say, okay, we want a $3 increase here, we don't care. Or what? We want it limited to such. And then questions come up of, well, we've got this new program we've got to do, and we say, well, okay, whatever. But it is a discussion about what the end product is going to look like. Outside of that, you make yourself and themselves a lot of work when you get in there and start taking this out and that out. Okay, it dies for lack of a second, and I'll accept that.
But
No, well, we're kind of going out of order. We're having a discussion about it before it's seconded, because it's important to you, so I get the rules or whatever, but at the same time, it makes sense. We don't want y'all to come, I mean, I don't think you're going to come in with a $4 tax raise.
No?
But I do recall what you're saying is last year y'all did do that, and y'all came in, not that high, but then we scaled it back.
Yep.
So last year, I guess we did it reverse of this. We did the same thing that she's doing now, because if you recall, the first one we got, we were like, no. You recall that? How much it was? And so I'm open to have a discussion, because it makes sense if it's going to end up creating more work for Rob, to where he's got it planned out, and then we're like, yeah, it's not going to work. Or would you rather us say, this is what we're comfortable with? And we may all have different numbers, and I guess we'd have to have a discussion on that.
I believe that was the exact discussion of last year, of what's your number, what's my number?
I must have thought it was a Sunday we did that, right?
Well,
Yeah, was that on a weekend? It was on a weekend.
yes, so, well, the next thing I was going to propose is a budget workshop on Saturday. So that way, next week, we could present to you what we were thinking, and then on Saturday, we would come back and do like, or if we did, because I think last year we did on a Sunday. But the budget workshop that we did on a Saturday, where we brought in the breakfast, and then we talked about it and hashed out, and you guys had access to it. So that way you had an idea of what we were looking for. And then you guys went back and thought about what number you wanted to do. And then when we met on the 2nd, that's when we really kind of did more of that piece.
I think it is better that you do the work that you're doing in the context of the parameters that has been set by the board.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it's more of a,
I'm happy to do whatever you guys choose to do. I just want everybody to keep in mind that we do have timelines that we have to adhere to.
Can you, sorry, go ahead, you raised your
No, I was just, my issue with next week is I'm not here next week. So I can't make either one of those. And I know I mentioned to you, I think Tuesday, because I was like, I feel like we're behind where we were last year with all this, which it's not good, because now it feels more rushed than, before. But like I know how we did it last year, and you guys came with a number, and we were like, yeah, okay, that can't happen. And then we all worked, I think, together almost in a way. Obviously your administration did a lot of it, but then we kind of worked together like, okay, we will not give up those 2 teachers that we were like, no, this is going to happen. But at the same time, it would be if we could like give you some parameters, like here's the max you can, it would probably make it perhaps easier for your administrators to, there's the, hey, I really wish we could do this, and there's the, we can't go more than here. I don't know.
Is that something that can be done tonight? If everybody has a number that they want us to stay under.
I guess I have a different philosophy in how I think about it. I understand where you guys are coming from. My thought is I liked last year when they came to us, it felt like with their wish list. And then it was our job as a board to set that number and then work together to get what we could off of that list. I would just, and I realize I really have a lot less skin in the game here, but if we set an arbitrary number of what it is, what could they be missing out on because they're stuck with this number? Do you know what I mean? If we say, let's just pick a dollar, but there's something that if we made it $1.10, there would be something really beneficial that could come into the district. We may not know that. So that would be one argument to keeping it the way that it is.
I don't like arbitrary numbers.
The only difference in this process and the process they're on now is they're putting all of this work into the nitty-gritty. You don't build a house that way. You figure out where the rooms are going to be, what's going to be. You don't build a business that way. So if in fact we have this meeting, they come forward with the problems and needs, and we do estimations at what the budget might come out to be based on what we have as current experience in the budget we're in, and then we meld that into what they're doing. It isn't like going in there and saying, okay, right, we're taking $1 million out of it. It's not that way. It's done based on, at the beginning of this meeting, I would see Rob and Donna give their presentation of the problems and needs and the things we need to overcome, and an estimated cost of what those might be. Then we look at our current budget and we say to ourselves, okay, what can we do? We've got to get this money from somewhere. And then, are there any suggestions of anything what we can do over here? There has to be a discussion other than you bringing us numbers that we just say, wow. And then we go from this page to this page and this page and cut. Tell us what you want and let us decide. And so my motion fails, though. I'll make it again. I move that we do a process of which the administration tells us their needs and wants, and then we set parameters as they go to put it together.
I'll second that for discussion. Would that be similar to what they're doing next week, though?
It might be, but
Because then they at least tell us, here's where we're at, this is what we want to add, like you said, and then
It's gonna be-
have to carry into that workshop where we, okay, how can we make this work? Where can we cut? Where can we?
okay,
Resources,
Isn't that,
risks.
Tim, the same way they're going to construct the budget right now with what they think should be in it, and then it's going to come and we've got to pick it out, as opposed to having the discussion of what our needs are and where to go? If we do that, what our needs are, we may make a decision that we need this more than we need something we have. But outside of that, it comes to us as a package. We don't make that connection. I guess I would say to the board, tell me what the harm is in actually going forward with a process where we determine the parameters to give an idea so that we don't have something that comes to us that we got to cut, and 2 weeks later, we see the difference in it.
Well, and I'm only going off of memory here, but I feel like that's what we kind of did last year. Like it was, these are the resources that we think that we need, because you guys are the experts in telling us. Like, we have our thoughts and our constituents and everybody else putting things in our ears, but y'all are the resident experts. And so when we're like, we need to improve behavior, we need to improve reading comprehension, whatever, then y'all go and figure out the best way to do that. Is that kind of what your expectations are for Thursday? Or is it
Yes.
like, here's our budget? Or is it going to be briefed to us with, these are where we see shortcomings. This is our plan to get to that. And then we say, well, I don't know if we agree with that plan in some form or fashion.
So what we've done so far is we've sat with each one of our team leaders, and we've gone through the budget and said, what are your needs? What would make what's your wish list? That type of stuff. Based on that information, we're going to do the PowerPoint presentation to show you what their needs are and what their wishes are. And then based on that, we would have a general number for you on what the budget would look like. And then at that point is when you guys would say, well, we would want the budget to be around X, Y, and Z. And then that's when our team kind of got back together and had the conversations on, okay, if we want to do this, I'll use your example, if we want to better the student behavior, but we can only do it at this amount, then what can we look at in our budget to maybe bring it down a little bit? Maybe we don't need so much supplies and everybody's, that type of thing. So that way we can get to that piece and get to where we want to be. So that's what we did last year.
I think we're on the same page. I think it's just the way that you briefed it as presenting the budget. Like, what you would present is your shortcomings, right? Or what resources that you think that you need to get us at the elementary school moved up and, to carry over from last year, right? We need a few more teachers based on previous, at least position numbers anyway. I don't know, I feel like it's almost the same thing. I mean, that's what I kind of feel like.
I feel that process that's being done with the staff is exactly what should be also done with the board. And so the reiteration that you did right now was exactly what should be done also with the board. And then you go back and bake the cake.
I see.
So what you're saying is next week, you wouldn't necessarily want to know the numbers. You want to know what they tell us their resource needs are, and us to determine whether or not we can come up with any extra resources for that, and if we agree with that in principle, or...
Okay, let's say Rob finds that here's a place that we don't need money and there's $200,000 in there. Wouldn't you like the board to make the decision where that 200 goes? So why is the board bypassed in the preparation of the budget? Let's put ourselves in a corporation now. We're Coca-Cola, and we want to put out a whole new brand. So we go out and taste test it, and we go back with the results, and we say to the board, look at this. We got 11 out of 10 people that like it, and they go forward on that information. But we're looking for doing another brand. Okay, I'm not going to fight it anymore. Let it go. I'll withdraw my motion.
I think it's an important conversation to have, like, because I agree from your perspective, we don't want them putting in 4 weeks of work. I mean, I'm looking at it from that perspective, and then we're like, sorry, Rob, you just...
But I like what he said too, where Rob finds 200,000 in whatever, main is high school, whatever that they don't need next year in the budget, like, because this was a one-time thing or whatever, that we know about that, so it's not like we think they just presented the same budget with the same thing, you know what I'm saying? So that could be 200 grand, like, hey, okay, there's some money right there from last year's budget going forward that we could utilize for these other couple things they need, kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like, knowing where, okay, this department didn't spend all their money, or this was a one-time thing, because I think we're going to save a little bit of money this year, because last year we bought some programs, right, that you had started under you as superintendent that we didn't need for this year, right?
That we did need for this year?
We don't need for this year. Like, you bought, it was like a one-time thing. Wasn't there something like...
There's certain things that we may have bought stuff under ESSER that wouldn't have been there.
I thought there was
But
like
the
curriculum-wise that
well, we
you switched us.
We purchased some programs, but you have to still buy the workbooks every year.
Okay.
And you'll still have,
It's not as much.
right, it won't be as much, but you,
Right.
yeah.
And essentially, that's what we've done, is sort of, like, I can't know where the $200,000 is going to be.
Of course, right.
Until I meet with.
Yes.
And the goal for next week would have been for them to present where the changes are coming and what kind of things we're going to need. So it's not a final budget that we're presenting to you. It would be more of a, these are the areas that might shift a little bit and things that we need. And then after that, the work session would be, where can we slice and dice and get to the number that we want.
So it kind of sounds
It,
similar So I think that we're okay. So I think what you're saying will be met with next week. It's not going to be the full budget. It's going to be
Wants and needs.
wants and needs, us analyzing it and coming together as a board and being like, all right, we can see that, now let's make some changes here and there. I mean, I think,
But if there is a desire from one or multiple board members for next year to adjust the process of bringing a board member into those conversations earlier, I think that, you know, that could be addressed at a later time as well. You know, maybe it's, you know, so.
so I got that you withdrew it, but I also think that, I think what you're asking for, Mr. Spalding, is kind of what we're doing. It just wasn't briefed totally that way.
We can make it however you guys want it. It's just for us to be able to present to you guys what we're thinking.
So the board should have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah?
Possibly, I would imagine you'd want to see it broken down by department, right? And general numbers given to the board so that way they can make an informed decision of here's what we need, but I'd like to know a total for that number. If you had everything, what does that look like? And then the board can decide how you whittle that down. So.
Because I don't think that, as a board, we've changed our goal, which we set last budget, was to improve, to try to hire more teachers, work on getting our pay so that we're competitive with other school districts, as well as improving our elementary school, which is a school in need right now. Is that the right term?
Yeah.
School in need. And to see that flow up. And so I would suspect that you're still working underneath that, because that was what you were hired for as your challenge, was not only to improve everything, but also get them when they're young so that it just keeps matriculating throughout the school years.
I'm missing a point. We should set the parameters from information that they give us, which doesn't have to be numbers orientated. It has to be, this is what we need, this is what we need to fix, so on and so forth. And then we come into that budget that way. Outside of that, they prepare, and what they prepare, they're going to try and defend. And then we got to take it out of their paws and take it away from them, or give it to them. To have the administration do it first, to me, misses the point completely of budgeting for what we want to do. We have had 2 fairly good-sized increases on the tax rate, and I think we need to be more frugal this time, which means our money has to find its place to work the best to get the most done. So probably they understand that. But I need to know that, and I need it to be expressed by the board as opposed to expressed on a piece of paper that comes to me. When you look at the, when they show it on the, it's like a done deal. You're not getting to the minutia, you're getting to the bulk number rather than the fine print.
I think we got to the minutia last year, though.
But it was in that Saturday one, it was that all day one, because remember we had all the papers everywhere, and then we're like, you gotta cut this, and then that has to happen. This is the only way we can really.
We have to prepare a budget with a number that is acceptable to the community and the staff. We got to balance those two. And that's our job, to begin that process. But I removed my motion, so whatever way you want to take it, I've had my fill of talking about it, because I think it's the one thing you've got to do.
So So are we okay then with meeting next Thursday at 4:30?
I'm not
Jenna?
familiar with the process, so, yeah, meeting to get us started on it. I mean, Donnie, you and your folks have done a lot of work on this already, I'm sure. From my perspective, I just like to kind of work on a basis of zero increase budgeting. Take,
Other than by law.
well, yeah, I mean, you got to deal with what the law's got in there, but keep the increases to a minimum and still accomplish the work. And it sounds to me like for this current year that we're in, you've done a lot of that work already. So now we take it and say, okay, we need to have teacher increases here or there, and that's going to go by whatever the contract says anyway. On the maintenance side of it, well, do we have any idea what that's really going to cost us with the CTE coming on board and everything? You know, how do we plan for an unknown?
Well, that's kind of my point, because I'm not trying to argue with Mr. Spalding. But if they come in Thursday and say, here's our shortfalls, because the 5 of us don't know what the high school needs, and to sit here and say that we do would be not fair to anybody that works at the high school. We may have an inkling because we've heard things, or we have children in high school. But really, it's your job to say, this is where we're at, this is where you want us to go, because we've told you all this, and this is what we think we need to get there. Whether or not next week is a line-by-line budget, I don't foresee us doing that, because we got to know what you're, now, having some bulk numbers, like this is what we think it's going to cost to fill this gap that we've identified as a district. We're then going to evaluate whether or not we agree with your assessment, not agree with your assessment, but whether or not we want to fund that, and then you can go back and finagle and fine tune, which is that what you were looking for on Thursday or not? Because I feel
Yeah.
like it's,
Yeah, well, what I can tell you is that they're not asking for really anything. Our budget is almost, a lot of our lines are almost exactly the same as this year. So, because our focus, of course, it would be on salaries. And so we went through the budget and they did line by line. Each person that met went line by line and said, okay, I'm just going to give you an example. You had $1,000 in supplies last year. You used 900, so 900 this year, you know, or use 1,000, okay, you get 1,000. So when you look at, and we actually brought copies if you want them, of what the budget looked like last year for the last few years, as well as what the proposal would be from the team. And it is, you can go line by line if you want, and then we could have, you know, a discussion on that next week if you want, but you're gonna find that there's not a lot of changes. There's not a lot of changes. There's some, on there's some items that it may look bigger, but we can explain to you that that's because that was ordered out of the wrong line. And so now we need to make sure that people are aware that you're supposed to order it out of 330, not 331. So we just made those adjustments to make sure that those were correct. But it's not, there's some pages that you may go through and say, okay, there's no changes here. There's some things that we have no control over. We have no control over what the retirement's going to be. We have no control over what the current pay raises are going to be. If you want to have an idea, what is the budget itself, without doing anything, is up, what, $1 million? Was it $1 million?
Just about $1 million.
Just about $1 million, just on pay. Just with pay, it's up $1 million. And that's without any bargaining.
I guess we're having that meeting I'm talking about right now.
Sounds like it.
So let's go on. Okay, so we got $1 million there. What's the rest? What's the ups and downs and what are our problems?
Would you like to, the budget?
Well, let's start with problems. What's the biggest problem that we need to solve as best we can this year in this district.
So the biggest thing that we need to solve this year is retention, keeping our teachers, so that way they're here next year. So we're not retraining. I think a lot of our behaviors
Okay,
that
so
we're
you're, so you're talking teacher pay,
Yep,
and we're in the process of negotiating the contract
Yep.
for next year.
yes.
So that's a board given. That's going to be done by the board, not by you,
Yes.
all right? So, all right, we got retention. What else?
Yep, so I'm talking teachers and paras. Those are gonna be our two big asks. That's like it.
And that's the million.
No, the million is without even adding that on.
The million is by law, everything that we have to cover by law.
If we were to look at what our default budget would be for next year, just the default, do we?
That would be up by 3.8%. So we have
How's that translate to dollars?
$822,000, almost $900,000 just in salaries and benefit increases alone. So then another couple for some increases in some programming, but that would be Thursday's presentations on each one of those. But yeah, it's not too much more, so.
Last year was huge. We did a lot last year with the new teachers and with all of that stuff. And so this year, the admin's focus is retention, keeping our teachers, because we feel that that's what's going to curve our behavior. That's what's going to push us forward, because if we're training new teachers every single year, then we're not getting to where we need to be. And so that's why we decided we're going to really focus on the salaries for our staff.
Any feedback from any board members on that?
What is 900 on the tax rate? It's 900. Or
$1.
a million, it's a
$20.
dollar.
It's around $1.20.
I think I'd like to see the presentation next week and then be able to talk more intelligently about things to move it forward. You know,
'Cause
but,
we can-
Once again, Donna and her folks have done a lot of work to get to where they're at. And I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I'm getting a feeling that you're not quite ready to move ahead with it yet.
Well, I think our team is ready we're ready to do whatever we need to do to
Okay.
Yeah, this
Make
is like
sure
a preliminary draft, just
Yeah.
to find out kind of where we're landing before we kind of look at deeper into some of the program changes that we want to do.
So if you have this additional week to work on it, your presentation basically will be polished and finished and ready to go. To us,
Yes,
okay? And then we take it, go through it, and I don't mean as a derogatory form, nitpick through it, and see what suggestions we may come back with.
the plan tonight was to give you just a draft copy of kind of what we looked at, so that way you could kind of look at it and see, and I think we did we do it, how did we work it out? And we can do it any way that you guys choose to. That was one of the things I was gonna say, is that how would you like to see this budget? Do you want it by school? Do you want it by code? Do you want, however you want it?
Yeah.
But, so what we did, and you can see what this year is and what next year is, and I think a lot of them, you'll notice that there's not much of a change.
So the preliminary draft that I made for tonight, if you'd like to review for the next week, it's very similar to the big spiral-bound budget changes book that you did, just the first section, just the general budget and all of its components, and then we can break it down by location level. So.
I'm not interested in a PowerPoint. I'm interested in a piece of paper and the discussion,
Yeah.
where we can mark it up, figure out where it is.
Do you want to see if this is how you, here, why don't we just
Just
take one and pass it?
But I think maybe what Bert's asking for is this, but also just on paper. What does curriculum need? What does Richards need for staff? What does middle high school need for staff? And then instead of having to go through a lengthy PowerPoint presentation, that the board can just work on that piece of paper and almost have a common document at the end of, this is the board's wishes, this is what the administration team needs. Thank you.
And I think some of the things that you'll see for the increases in there is because we need to remember that when ESSER expires in September, and there were staff members that were in ESSER, and so we needed to take those staff members and put them into our general budget. And I believe I told you guys this last year, that that was going to be one of the things that you'll see. So some of the increases that you'll see that's exactly what they are. They are adding staff members that were in ESSER. So there's nothing in there of staff members that we're asking to add for next year. These are just our current staff members that we have. And if it's the board's pleasure just to kind of have these and go line by line, or if you want to have questions, you know, if you look and you say, well, why is this line up by $20,000? Then we can explain that to you, why that line is up by $20,000, or, you know, that type of stuff. So we can do that too. It's whatever you wish. And we can do it by building, we can do it by however you choose to do it. And we don't have to have everybody come and present, because pretty much everybody sitting here at the table can tell you exactly why. Because we've had those conversations. Rob and I sat down with every one of our administrators to go over the budget. So we know why each change has taken place.
So you were thinking for next week that we'd have the grand show, everybody come walk it in and walk through this thing with us?
We can do that. It's however you choose, or we just
To me,
have
that
us.
doesn't sound very efficient, because you're saying you guys have already done this. So let us go through it, and then we can have a dialogue meeting next week.
That works as well. And if you
And then
don't
where
like
we
this
have-
format,
where-
we can give another format.
Where we have problems, okay, we maybe have the department heads or whoever come in and talk to us, because they're the ones who got to live with it. And I don't mind making a decision and telling a department head, hey, look, you just got to become more efficient. Or don't you think you ought to spend more here so that you can get that out of it? You know, have that kind of dialogue.
And
From that way, then we go forward to finalize the budget.
Correct, and if the board wishes, they could come and just sit in the audience, and we could go through line by line, and if there's specific questions you have for them, you can ask them, so they're here to answer those types of questions. It's whatever you guys choose to do.
How would you
The-
prefer to see it?
The NTA contract, current contract expires when?
We're negotiation 25.
So you've already figured in to this, their last increase.
The requirement that they would have, yes. What is not figured into their bird is the current negotiations we're having with paras. That's not figured into there, and theirs is every year. A para's contract is every year.
Well, like Rob said, it's $1 million plus. And the board needs to take the reins and get in here and put together what it is. Suggest to us this and do it. I am reluctant to have you put a lot of work into this, right down to the penny, and then come to us and say, this is the budget you want. You present your budget, and when we buy the budget, it becomes ours. If we think that we can add $1 million every year to this budget, go go right along. In 10 years, have any idea where we'll be? So, I want a presentation, by line item, by item actually first, do the big things. Say, hey, this is what we need to do, salaries, we gotta do it, teacher retention, got it. Then we apply to that. Then as we look at the rest of the stuff, we say, well, we're gonna have to do without this. The board leads, doesn't follow. But
What'd
that's
you
it.
say, Bert? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. The board what?
Board leads.
I don't think anybody's disagreeing with you. I think
Then the conversation should end, and that's what it should be, a presentation to us that is a forecast of what we want, so that we can add and subtract from it and make something that is acceptable, rather than here's the list, and you modify the list.
I don't think that's not how I would do it.
I got it.
Second thing
That is a
you're saying?
misrepresentation,
The-
Steve, of what they would do. I got that. But it still comes to us first for direction.
Right, so,
Okay.
but let me finish. So my direction that I gave Donna, from me personally as a board member, what I want to see individually, I've told her 1,000 times probably, just in passing, like, I hope the budget doesn't improve, you can't keep increasing it because there's not enough money in this town. So her guidance for me has been that, right? Like, just off the cuff little comments here or there of like, I'm looking for a reduced budget because we know off what we talked about last year. So I'll go back to what I think I've said this in a meeting before, is they have to tell us, these are the resources that we think that we need, because the 5 of us don't know. Jenna might know more than the 4 of us as a teacher in this field. So they have to tell us, these are our wants and needs, and this is what it looks like. And then we have to say, appreciate that. However, when we prioritize it as a board, we're gonna cut, puppet shows for, on Thursdays or whatever, because we can't afford to pay the actors to come and do the puppet show, right? Like, so for me, I have to have something from them saying, these are my wants and needs, this is what I think that I need, this is what I think I need to be successful based on our strategic vision, based on all this other stuff, because they have that, so they know that we need to improve. And so then we take that data and we say, oh man, they're asking for $1,000. And if every year the statutorily increase is going to be roughly $900 to $1.2 million, where can we go? And then that's when we come back and say, hey, look, you did a great job here, but we need to try to find $500,000 somewhere to hack away at, like whether it's a number or whether it's puppet shows on Thursdays or whatever. I'm just making something up. We don't do puppet shows that I know of. I'm just coming up with something kind of outlandish that if we were spending money on that, that'd be an easy cut, right? Like Bert and I can go be the puppeteers, save that district money.
How come we didn't have like roughly, well, say $1 million. How come we didn't have roughly $1 million increase last year? Because I remember our tax rate was what, $1.81? But the default wasn't $1 million higher than, you know what I'm saying? We're already starting behind the 8 ball.
Our insurance rates last year were, we got very lucky, we were one of the lowest,
Yeah.
so.
But that would be something that I think that we'd be able to ask on Thursday, and y'all should be able to say with fairly
Yeah.
competence that this is why last year was only 700 or whatever it was, and
This
this
year
year
it's
it's 3%.
Whatever.
And those are the kinds of questions that we need to know, because then that helps drive us, I would think, on the guidance that we then provide as a board to reducing money. So I'm saying all this to say that I think that we're all kind of on the same sheet of music. I agree with you, Bert, that the school doesn't tell us this is the budget. We tell the school or the administrators, this is your budget. But we can't tell them this is your budget without trusting their expertise and saying, you've hired me on to do this, I've analyzed it, and this is what I think, because there's gonna be things in there that Donna is asking for that one or three of us may say, and then we'll have a discussion about that, and she can either convince us, or we say, we need to cut that.
Bottom line is just, you need a meeting on Thursday and you need a quorum there. I think that's the first thing, because we cannot get behind schedule on it. No matter whether it's the way, or the way Bert wanted it, or the way I wanted it, we need to have that meeting on Thursday so we don't get behind. The board needs to have an idea of what deadlines are, especially with the functioning budget advisory committee again this year. And then we need to make sure there's a quorum there if you are not in town.
So based on the conversation we had, the discussion that I would like to see on Thursday at this meeting would be a rough idea. You've given it to us, about 900,000, so just compare that to last year and why there's a difference. I think we have this data.
You want to talk this, you don't want a PowerPoint of.
Right, no.
We don't even have to do a
Right.
PowerPoint. We can
Just like, I think this is the way to go, and then basically you guys would just say, hey, if I'm like, hey, why did this increase? And you'll have an answer, right? And then, because it sounds like this year versus last year, it almost doesn't even seem like we're gonna.
But I think that's the second meeting. I think this meeting should be, these are our shortfalls that we see. This is the risk that if we don't fund this, because if they don't tell us what the risk is, it's very easy for us to take a vote and be like, no. Right? If we don't.
You're saying right now, what your words, the connotation of them, is exactly what I'm looking for. Is that presentation stating, here's what we think, but our problems are this, and that's why we're doing it, which is an umbrella over it, without us going down here and say, okay, that's up $20,000 in that line item. Explain to me what that $20,000 is for.
Right, I think that's more the second meeting,
That's right. That's right.
which is how we did it last year, I think.
Yes.
So that's why I think that
Yes.
we're all talking in circles, because I think I had the same conversation, we can probably go back and look at it, because that's how I did it in the Army, was through risks to resources and what happens, and then we have to analyze that risk and assume it for the community. And so that, then they can vote us out whenever we don't analyze it.
I think some
I
of
think
the,
we're all good.
There was,
yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yep.
we're gonna look at a little history here, okay? We had a budget process and all went through and it come up to the taxpayer, and the taxpayer took $1.2 million out in 1 year. Guess what? Who didn't do their job? The board. Okay, so, that all being said, we need to do our job. Because outside of that, what do we face? And how long do we go before we meet that catastrophe where we get a major cut because people just can't pay it? And this is a bad year to come forward with a budget with a large increase. So, that all being said, right here, you get any special articles in here? Other articles other than what's in the budget listed? Other things that you want? Okay, so you've got one item essentially that we're gonna vote on, which is the budget.
Pending negotiations.
Yeah, for the,
Because we may have warrant
Support
articles for the negotiations.
but it almost sounds like the way the budget is this year, the default's gonna be up $1.20, or roughly. I don't want to throw a number, but there ain't much we're even gonna be able to do with this budget, because we can't even say we're not increasing the taxes, because by default, we're increasing the taxes. Which puts us it just puts us in a shitty position, because there's things we need to do, but we'd have to find a way to cut them, and let's face it, we went through this budget last year. I'm sure there's still some little things we can cut, but you're not gonna find $1 million to cut or anything in there that's gonna like offset anything, so it's tough, because you kinda don't have a lot of choice. Unless someone wants to drop big check off and say, here you go.
Well, I think part of what you're gonna see in there is because we had to add probably about 4 or 5 positions into the budget because they were in ESSER. So we have to eat that. And I know I told you guys that last year, that this year was gonna be a big year because of that. So that's part of what you're seeing. And so that's why we said, and I told you guys that, like, you can look at the numbers and see that we didn't increase a lot of things, and we can justify everything, but some of it was just moving things around. We put it in the wrong line. You'll see some big ones because that's a new teacher that we took out of ESSER, that type of stuff.
Right, but for Thursday, we just need to know what shortfalls that you assess, so that would be one of them. We've moved 4 teachers over
Yeah.
here. However, I also think we need to try to find 2 more teachers for the middle school, you still need to let us know, because
Yep.
even if we can't get you that money, we still have to have that in the back of our minds when these other conversations come up about, why, the conversations we've had previously, making sure everybody's in a class, making sure everybody has a teacher, making sure everybody is able to take classes by their year grade cohort.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's really what we need Thursday. Like, this is good, so now we can study this and look through it, but it needs to be, where do you think that we have gaps in our ability to educate our children properly? And then what's your recommended solution, or what you see there, which we may not agree with, right? And y'all know this.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Another issue, I asked for an accounting of all special articles that we have and monies set aside with the amounts that are in them. I have not seen that yet.
Special articles?
Of the past, historic,
Okay.
Our accounts.
with what's in them.
Do you mean your capital reserves?
Right, because
Oh,
we
okay.
have to, we have to have a town meeting in order to be able to withdraw from
Okay.
that. The board does not have the ability to vote on that. And so the question came up last year of, it was a potential warrant article of, can we ask the voters to give the board permission to access those capital reserves without having to go to the town to ask permission first? And Bert had asked
I think that he got this.
the
Is this-
amount, the
This is what
amount,
you were given last year, I believe?
but also how much.
Okay, so this is last
in and
year's.
out.
How about one that's right now? Is this right now? Or is this?
We don't put any money into them.
Okay, none of these are in interest-bearing accounts?
I'm not sure. But we can get you an updated one, but this is the first I'm hearing that you needed one for this year.
It isn't that we need one, it's that we cannot manage a district if we do not know what our assets and liabilities are and where they are. So all of that information comes to us, it's not kept secret.
Would I go to Paul for that?
Yes, Paul has that.
Okay, so will we have a quorum Thursday at 4:30 next week?
I'll be here.
I can be here. Can you make it, Mr. Spaulding?
Yeah, I'll try, but I want information. Outside of that, I'm not gonna waste my time on a budget that we do not direct. So my motion didn't go, and we've talked it to death. Call me a spoiled brat, I love the title. Okay, I wanna know, just like right here, can we reach some of this money under the right conditions to reduce the tax payers' bill? So everything that we have, as I went through one, we have $1 million some odd in investments. Rob, explain that investment line for us.
Okay.
At this point right now, it's $1 million plus,
Oh, that's for your bond for the CTE project.
okay? And there was like an asset number. Okay, I'll make it clear. I want to know all monies that we have and everywhere we have them, so that we can make an intelligent decision on how to handle this budget. Because if there's something in this budget that we can move to a capital reserve, then we do it.
Pay from a capital reserve.
If we save that money there for a rainy day, I'm going to call it a rainy day. Fuel prices are up. Heating a house, so we just voted a 25% rate in sewer.
But I gotta interrupt you though, because this is bothering me. Because you just said that whatever your nickname is, you said 5 minutes ago that I'm saying the exact same thing that you are.
Yep.
But you sound agitated because I feel like the longer we sit here, the more that you keep coming up with. So I thought that we were gonna do what you wanted to do on Thursday.
Steve, let me interrupt you for a minute. In all of that conversation, we didn't talk about this at all. That's what I want. I do not want us to have to draw it out. I want it to come forward to us in its complete, as it should be. So, this didn't come up. I had to ask for it.
Right, but we can go back and watch the tape, Bert. You said you didn't get it last year. And so she went and she grabbed it and said, I gave this to you last year. You didn't say this year's. Like, I'm gonna argue with you here because words have meaning. And so when you told Donna that you never got it, she went over here and pulled it out and said, you did get it. And then you said, this is what I want this year, which...
Last year versus this year is...
I understand that, but...
All right, Steve, whatever. Just do it. I'll make the meeting.
But I think we're on the same, like, the second I think that we're on the same page, Bert, you're adding things to it. And so I need to make sure, because I don't want to have a meeting on Thursday where
I
there's
shouldn't
only
have to add
3 of
things to
us.
it. It should come to us in a complete package.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, then if you understand, then there should be no argument, Steve.
I'm not arguing.
I want it all, so I can make an intelligent decision.
Right, but when you
Without-
started talking about it, you came up with this 10 minutes, 15 minutes into this conversation.
Yeah, I expected it to come out.
So he just wants to be presented that we have assets here.
I understand.
Like I don't know about, right? So,
I understand that.
Well, I think now.
Bert,
we
you're
know-
looking for
I
a
think
balance sheet?
They,
Excuse me?
You're looking for a balance sheet? That's gonna show all our assets and
Well,
liabilities?
We already did the balance sheet, and the balance sheet, we returned $253,000 to reduce taxes. So there's $250,000 out of this budget that we might get, okay? That's not been mentioned until this point either. I need to look at it all, because just like you look at your budget, your wife's income, your income, and you figure out how you're gonna pay your bills from that. And so I have an expectation that our leadership brings everything to us. And so now I'm making it clear. I want it all.
do you know what you need?
Yes.
Okay, then we should move on.
You Vice Chair. I'm just trying to make sure
No,
that
I agree.
we cover everything, because
But if they know what they need, then.
because I think that we're on the same sheet of
I'll be
music.
here next week. You ask that question.
All right, what do we got
We'll be
next?
next
When
week.
we get back, yeah.
All right.
Craft fair.
Well, I have a timeline
There's
too,
a
if you want the
second.
timeline, but I'm going to give it to
A
you.
question to add for you to answer for the next meeting. Out of the amount that we returned to reduce taxes, what line items did that come out of? A list. Say, 100 here, 200 here, 400 here,
253.
5,000 here. That would give us a place to begin to look. Will that cost saving repeat itself in the next year?
Okay.
You know, we're talking about the,
Yep.
yeah, okay,
So your unassigned fund balance, where does that?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes from throughout your whole budget.
They
Right.
want
For
to list.
every line item, it's whatever line item was underspent.
Okay, so every one of them contributed something to the 253. I've got that. But where did the big part of it come? As you go through this, and you have a $1 right here, and we'll just smile. And then we'll see one with $50,000. Oh, wow.
Right. I can sort it by amount and see where the big players
Yeah,
were.
maybe just put the big one on top.
Just put the big one on top.
Because I don't care where a dollar
Yeah,
was, but I
exactly.
certainly, perfect.
Anything else? Craft fair.
Well, can I give you a copy? Can I hand out a copy of the timeline, just so that way everybody can see it? Usually the timeline would be delivered to you on 9/28, but it wasn't, so we had to make some adjustments to make sure that we had everything given to you, because like Tim had said, we're kind of behind the time a little bit here. Do you need another one?
Yeah, one more, please.
But this just kind of gives you an idea of when things need to take place. That's
Dress
all
them up,
this is.
can't take them out.
Cameron's?
And a lot of these dates are based on the guidelines that are put out by the state. What I did is, you'll see the ones that are in green are the ones that we're required to do. And the reason why you see orange next to them is because those would be non-meetings, we'd have to schedule another meeting for that. So if you look at the very first one, it says 11/16 at 4:30, that's the one that I was asking you for next week. And then the 12/2, that's the one that I'll be asking you for the Saturday workshop that we do. So that's what those are. That date can be changed if you wanted to do it on a Sunday or whatever. But then when we start going to public input, all that stuff, we just need to make sure that we have that all down, because we have to also keep to the timelines of advertising. So that's what that is.
So in here, you've left sufficient time for us to peruse the information you give, rather than bringing it to a meeting and say, you got to answer it today.
Yes.
In other words, your request coming in on a fire truck with me will get a no right from the get-go.
Yes, that's why we asked for the meeting next week, so that way we can kind of present to you that stuff, and as well as on the 2nd, because we were looking for public input on December 14th.
Okay. So my question was, all of the dates that you set here have taken into consideration that the information will be available to the board before those days in sufficient time for review.
Yes.
So by Monday, anything else you need for Thursday, we'll have?
I will work tomorrow all day to make sure you get whatever you need.
Thank you. February 3rd. So what's the yellow? Do you have a-
The yellow is state requirements. Those are, so some of that is not, it doesn't apply to us. So like the bond stuff won't apply to us, that type of stuff.
Just making sure.
Yes, no, that's fine, so.
All right, any other questions about the budget before we move to craft fair? Something fun?
Yes, while the Sullivan County Cares would like to hold their annual Children's Christmas Corner and Craft Fair, they'd like to set up on the 8th of December and have the event, the craft fair and the event on the 9th. I'm looking to see if I can have their fees waived. This is an amazing event where all the proceeds go to sending care packages to active military, both overseas and stateside. I'm also asking that you waive the insurance requirement. They have all their participants sign a document stating we will not be held liable.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes.
Thank you.
And then next we have the MOA.
Yes, so tonight I'm asking the board permission to allow me and Steve to sign the MOA between the town and the school for the bus barn.
And that's based on,
That was based
Last
on,
night?
yes, that was based on last night.
I have a motion.
I have also brought copies in case anybody needs them from the meeting last night. So, it just came to me a little bit before our meeting with the changes.
Yes, he's onto the coast over here.
Right here. The town actually has payment, twice the district's contribution. So we send them a check for $1 million, I'll put two in.
Where did you get the $1 million?
Yeah, I know, well, I know. Monopoly money.
I will move the memorandum of agreement.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
I just need to say something.
Oh.
The agreement was approved last night by the 3 board members that were there. And so what I'm requesting tonight is permission for signatures.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay, no,
I will then withdraw my previous motion and move that we allow Donna and Steve to sign the MOA.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, discussion? Were you raising your hand? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Me.
Abstained? Motion passes 4-1. All right, do we have any new hires?
No,
Any resignations?
no.
Any committee report outs? Negotiations are ongoing. No policies? The admin have anything they would like to address, you and your crew?
I just need to find it. I wrote it somewhere. I just want to wish all the staff a wonderful day off tomorrow. I hope they take the time to get the well-deserved rest that they need. I also wanted to say that the Thanksgiving baskets that we will be delivered on Friday of next week, not tomorrow, Friday of next week. So we're thankful for all those who supported this event. We have over 50 families that will be receiving a Thanksgiving basket from us this year. And this year we worked with Got Lunch, and so in actuality we have well over probably almost 100 families that will be receiving stuff from us. So it's really good. Yeah, so it's really good. And we're very fortunate because not only would they be getting all the fixings for Thanksgiving, but they will also be receiving pasta, they will be receiving peanut butter, they'll be receiving bread, they'll be receiving a lot of other really good things. So we're actually really excited about it.
Appreciate you all working hard for that.
And we're actually delivering them on Friday, so we get to get out and see families, so it's really nice.
Do you have anybody else?
Lisa?
Sorry. On behalf of Richards, I also wanted to thank the Newport PD for helping out with the parade. It was a really successful parade. There were a lot of folks there, and I just appreciate that.
It's a wonderful event. And the kids are so excited about it. My hopes is that eventually we can do something where we have the kids from the school come down and watch it as well, because it really is a really great thing to see.
So, in case somebody heard it on the microphones, just thanking the police department, Newport Police Department, for assisting with the parade at the elementary school is a great success. All right.
Anybody else on your staff got anything? Or-
Night. Thank you.
Just knee deep in the budget, but I think we've talked about that enough for 10 minutes.
All right, Daryl, you got anything? Board communication? Moving ahead. Learning day by day. Timothy?
All right, I have a few things. I'll start with the lighthearted stuff. So you make cookies. I've been on this board more than a year. No cookies.
Noted.
No, I want to thank you, Jenna, for your service to the board, and it's gonna be it's a tough loss because you're the balancing act to this circus that we run here. It's important to always have that other side of things, and you've always brought that to us, and so I would greatly miss that from you, and I appreciate the time, and especially what you do for a living. This is going to be even harder than it is for the rest of us to do board meetings because it takes so much away from your family, and I really appreciate that. So thank you, and I've learned a lot from you, and Steve's learned a lot from you, still learning. But you'll definitely be missed. And I think I just wanted to go back to the behavior stuff. And I know we're working stuff. I know we put in the SOAR program. It's just getting to a point where I just feel like this district needs to stomp their foot down and be like, we're done. We're not playing this game no more. I hear it from my students that are in the school. I hear it from other people. I hear it because I get phone calls. Like I went this week to Richards because elementary school kid ripped the urinal off a wall, which is difficult to do. I'm also getting a quote for the middle school stalls that the kids have destroyed. It's getting to the point where we have to start building our buildings like prisons, and that's not how that should work. We're looking at a $22.5 million budget next year. We spend this much money, and then how much money do we spend to fix stuff because kids just keep destroying them? And I know a lot of it's like, the state has their foot on our throat, which is a perfect way to say it, with, you'll do this. But they also have an obligation to fund education, and it's in the Constitution of the state of New Hampshire. And I know a lot of it is we operate in fear, like, oh, the state will take our funding. Well, I'd like to see them try taking our funding, because they don't even follow the law and fund us as they should. They think our education's worth $4,100 a kid. I don't know what that puts us in this district, but what's that, around 4.1 million-ish? And clearly that's ridiculous. But they give charter schools even more money than this, and I feel like it's time to, you want to know why the teachers can't teach is because 80% of the problem is the behavior is so bad. Like, you couldn't pay me enough to be a teacher. You couldn't pay me enough. I would either get arrested on day one or I'd be fired on day one, because I wouldn't tolerate the disrespect, all of it. And I first came into this thing, and I was like, well, and I had this mindset that the teachers weren't doing their job. That's why this wasn't working. This is why our district's as bad as it is. And I'm so thankful for this experience, because I couldn't be further from the truth from that. It has nothing to do with that. It's because we send our teachers into a circus, and we're like, hey, you need to now try to teach these kids when you've got a constant distraction. You evacuate your classrooms, you have to do all this stuff, and enough's enough. I don't care if a parent sues the district or says or threatens to sue the district because, you can't kick my kid out of school. They have a legal right to an education. Sure they do. They do, fully, 100%. But if they can't behave in a classroom and they're taking the education from the rest of the kids, you don't have a right to take other people's rights away from them. And I can guarantee you most of the ones that are causing the issues, those parents aren't going to sue you anyways because they couldn't afford to sue you. I have no problem with working with people. We need to do the best we can for our students. We don't just put a label on them and say, well, we don't care about you, because we do. But we have to put our foot down. We have to stop just letting this snowball effect happen, and there seems like no consequences for it. It almost seems like the room downstairs should be like full to capacity and then some, almost like, from just the things I hear, it's, you know, I know from stories I've had with my daughter, like, she's like, I'll be shocked if these two teachers come back next year. And one of them is a really, really good teacher, and we're very fortunate to have that teacher because of the level of disrespect. And this is 9th grade. I mean, you might expect it a little bit on the lower grades, but, you know, 9th grade, the level of disrespect in the classroom. And, you know, I went to the school 2 weeks ago, I think it was. I texted Steve, I was like, we need to have this conversation, because every hall I went down, there was Miss Fisher dealing with a student here that wouldn't listen. There was a teacher upstairs dealing with a student wouldn't listen. No. Oh, you don't want to listen? Then don't come to school this week. And the parents call and complain, tough shit, make your kid listen. It's real simple. This town spends $22 million, $21 million in education, and the kids that want to be there and trying to learn, it's taking from them because they're disrupting the classes. So we have to figure something out. And I know you've done miles more than previous administrators done. I just feel like we just can't keep letting it go. We just have to put our foot down and be like, no, we have to show these kids tough love, and this is how it is. It's, you behave, or you're just not here this week, or you're, you know, we kick a kid out of school, or we send them to the SOAR program, which is even a better option, obviously, but we gotta do something. We can't just keep letting it go. And I know it's not just a Newport issue. You know, maybe there's a teacher that the schools they've taught at, and this is the worst, sure, but, and it's a society issue, it's bigger, but someone has to say enough's enough, and we're not gonna deal with this anymore. So I think that should be us. We should set the example that we won't tolerate this no more.
Almost a year ago, Chief of Police came to our board meeting, and at the end, I asked him, for all intents and purposes, this is Armageddon, this is the end. Referring to discipline, what we can and cannot do, and the mental health that we could get for the children. And then comes Lisa Ferrigno with this recent thing that a teacher can't put her hand on a child. There is no better time to stop a fire than at the spark. I wrote this in an email. A gentle hand and a smile. Doesn't happen now because the teacher's afraid to touch. Where the hell are we headed? The reason the Constitution really doesn't direct us in education is because they use the word cherish. So those who have money fight hard in the legislature to keep the money that they have. And the poor people don't have the money to fight. So we're on the losing end of the stick. I'll just end it with the teacher come right up to Bert and put his finger right into his nose and say, "You behave." Hopefully it works, because if not, all the children in the room pay for that time to correct behavior. But now, we have this thing called the internet, and I think we did a wonderful thing taking the phones out of the middle school. We need to migrate with that. The superintendent told me that there were 0 parents that called in. Is that still correct?
That is still correct.
And 2 children. Just 2 children. Isn't that phenomenal? That's phenomenal. Because what really happened there is the parents recognized that it was a good idea. They didn't fight it. It's a good idea. Wow. So, to me, I'm not a social media guy at all. I call it being on social media. It's like working at the wrong end of the sewer pipe. And our young kids are exposed to it. So, where do we go? The last man out, close the door. I don't know how you fix it with the criteria that's being put on us, other than what we've done and doing more of it.
Well, I'd say the state's doing it on purpose, because the state don't want to fund education, so they keep making these laws to destroy education publicly. That's my opinion, but they pass a lot of
Idiots
people
in the
that,
State House.
and they pass a lot of dumb things, and I keep saying, why would you do that? Wait, because you're objective, and if you look at the voting in the last 5 years of the state or whatever, and how they treat public education, they want to destroy public education so they don't have to fund it anymore. Why else would you pass all these stupid rules? So now a teacher has to decide what's going to be critical. Like the backpack probably isn't, if the kid swings around and hits a kid in the head, probably isn't going to be enough damage to hit them than a chair. So now the teacher has to make the decision. Like, it's crazy. It's nuts. And the state makes all these brave, smart decisions. I'm telling you, they're trying to just cave public education, and we don't have to fund it now, will we?
And Jen is going to speak on the commissioner. The commissioner's children are homeschooled. Our commissioner of education doesn't even believe in public education, so.
There you go.
Say no more. Like,
Is the commissioner elected or appointed?
I guess if I was to be a new parent, I would consider homeschool. It would be a good parental decision, because if you really look at what's happening, wow.
but man, if you were the head of that department, that says a lot. That, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you homeschool your kids and you're the head of it, that'd be like, yeah, that's this. I don't know.
So one of the things too that we talked about in our last meeting was homeschooling, because we do have, sometimes I get parents that get angry at either me or our building administrators, and the very first thing they say is, I'm homeschooling my kid then, right? Under the law, there's not a thing we can do about it. They can send a letter to the commissioner stating that they're going to homeschool their child, and all they have to do is say to the school, my kid's not coming back. And we have no way to follow anything. We don't know if they're being educated. We don't know what they're using for a program. We know nothing. And then 3 months later, they come knocking back on the door and they enroll their kid back in the program that has now lost 3 months of school, a year of school, 2 years of school. So years ago, there used to be follow through, where if you wanted to homeschool your child, you needed to prove to the superintendent what curriculum you were going to be using, and your child was tested throughout. And then they did all the state testing, and they had to meet certain requirements. Now there isn't any. Now you just homeschool if you want to. And we find that a lot of our parents, once we start pushing, your child's not coming to school, they need to come to school, we're going to have to report educational neglect, I'm homeschooling. Your child's doing this, and they shouldn't be doing this. Well, the school is bad, now I'm homeschooling. And so this is what we're seeing a lot. I think in the last week, I've had probably 8 parents say they want to homeschool their child.
That's the thing. This state, not the teachers, not us, no, this state in general doesn't give a crap about education. We have the highest in-state tuitions, I think, like top in the country. It would be cheaper for my kid to go to some other school in another state and pay out-of-state tuition than in-state tuition. Like, and that's at that level. Like, they don't care about it. So it just, in the decisions they make, follow it. It just shows it clear as day that if you really want to fix something, you wouldn't make these decisions and then continually make these decisions. When you have to sue them over funding and all this, and then the first thing they say to you is, if you don't follow their laws and rules that they come up with, we'll pull your funding. It's interesting, isn't it? I don't know.
I'm just going to steer the conversation a little differently, since this will be my last board meeting, to just, first I'd like to thank the community of Newport for welcoming my family here 7 years ago. allowing me the privilege to serve on this board. It has always been a privilege, whether I've been up here laughing or whether it's been a little bit harder than that. It has always been a privilege. I thank all of you for serving on the board with me, for always listening kindly and with respect, even when we disagreed. I hope that that continues moving forward. To the administration, I applaud what you do, and I want you to keep going. And I've told a couple of people this, that it has always been my intention that if I always kept the staff and the students and families as my compass of how I made decisions, no matter how hard it was, that I would always land on the right side of it, whether or not other people agreed with me or not. So I wish that for all of you. And you have to balance that with financial obligations and community support. And so every decision that I've made, not every decision, many decisions have been challenging because you try to look at it from so many perspectives. I would be lying if I said that I'm not going to enjoy having time back with my family. Depending on how long non-public goes, I will not have seen my youngest son in 2 days as of tomorrow morning because I have worked late nights this week. So I'm very much looking forward to that, but I am deeply going to miss serving on this board. And I was writing an email at 2 o'clock this morning to somebody, and I told them that my husband has been joking with me that the only way he could get me off of this board was to move, and there's some truth to that. So I just want to say thank you very, very much, and I will truly miss my role here, and I will always be a Tiger. You're right. You know, those of you that know that I work in a neighboring community that we often talk about and compare ourselves to, and I never for a second thought that just because I worked there, I would pull my students to go there. They are Tigers, and we are Newport residents, and that's where they were going to be, and it was never a discussion. I've always been proud to be a Newport resident. I still am, and I'm proud to be a board member. So I will truly miss being here, although I won't be all that much farther away, far enough. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. On that note, I'm going to first start off by Miss Biddy Irwin has stepped down as our district moderator. So I would like to thank her for her years of service, many years of service, not only to this school but also our town. She worked very hard to make our school district and our town better, and we are going to miss her. We wish her the best, and I will be working with Dr. Scott along with the RSA to find a replacement for Miss Irwin. But I wanted to take the time to thank her. I know, like on a personal level, we probably disagree between my craziness and her craziness, the way that I see her. You know, she probably sees me as crazy. But I'll tell you one thing: there's a few citizens in this town that stand up and stand out to me. As we may disagree on, you know, how to get there, but we want the best at the end. And even though I think it's safe to say that Miss Irwin and I wouldn't agree on a lot of things, we agree on making the school and the town a better place, and that's what she always strived for. So I just want to thank her, and we will miss you, Miss Irwin, and we wish you and your husband the best as you move out of Newport. And again, thank you for your service. I would also like to thank the band, the chorus, and both honor societies at the high school. They put on an excellent program for veterans this morning. We missed out on the breakfast. There were still some snacks, but due to inclement weather, we just had the program. So they performed a nice montage of music and ceremony for the flag. And so I also want to thank Mr. Stewart, Ms. Howe, and Ms. Ping for their effort in inspiring the kids to give back to the veterans of the community. Again, I said it briefly last time, but thank you, Jenna. We have not always agreed, oddly enough, but we get along, and you keep me in check, and you keep me focused. You grabbed my gavel earlier. I don't know what I'm going to do without you. Making sure that I know when to do a roll call vote, since I can't figure it out after almost, what, 8, 9 months now? 7? It's been a while, but you are going to be sorely missed, and so we'd like to present to you with this appreciation plaque, thanking you.
Thank you guys very much, I really appreciate it.
And
And there's cake!
administrators, from the administration.
That's better than cookies. She's gonna mail some.
And this is even special. Bryn bakes cakes, and she made that for you, so that's not a store bought.
Can't get better than that.
Thank you, thank you. That's very
Thank you.
Thank you all. That means a lot.
Okay, so.
Do we get to eat the cake and not cut it?
Well, we
Well,
also
we
have
need
a
to share
recess
it.
too.
Yeah, we need to do a recess, right? So,
Because I think we decided the last time that you guys wanted a recess before we went into non-public. So if you want to do a quick
Go to the
recess to,
restroom.
Yep, yes, please.
and then go into non-public after that. I think that's what you guys wanted, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
now, do we have it typed up how I do this? Just
I think you just-
You can call, you're allowed to just call for a recess, I believe.
Okay, well, why don't we, at this point, take a 10-minute recess, and then we'll come back, and we will
Enter into
Enter into
non-public formally.
formally. So on that note, 10-minute recess.
We have knife, we have cake and knife and